Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth. Is it true that your dad has a ringside seat, but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome.
Yeah!
Give it up for...
We hate that! You already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby. Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal, and first and foremost, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking your time to spend with me to talk a little NWA. There are hundreds of viewing options here on YouTube and Twitch and X, and you choose to be here, and I think that's pretty freaking cool. So thank you first and foremost for being with me and being with the pre-party. That's out of the way now. Enough of all that. I got to say what's up to my friends who are here in the chat. Noob is in the house. Willie Bowen is here. Jeremy's here. Steve G is here. And I'm sure lots of you are still coming in and joining. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you got to do is leave a comment. Post a comment here on the live stream. We'll read it on air. We'll put it up on the screen. This is a community that is welcoming all. If you're a fan of the NWA, otherwise you might be bored here. But if you're a fan of the NWA, this is the place to be. And even if you hate the NWA, maybe this is a place for you too. A lot of things going on in the world of professional wrestling, and it's hard to keep track of everything. But we're gonna narrow focus, high intensity on the NWA because, man, so much stuff has been happening lately. It's kind of a little bit wild, right? It's almost uncomfortable, right? Because I don't know about you guys. Change is hard for me. I like things the way they are. Jeez, Jaden. Excuse me, Kikuchi. That's not Jaden. Kikuchi is the number one Jaden hater. Let's get this pre-party started. Give it a hawk tour. Damn. I should just end the show now. Let's get back to the point I was trying to make, where there's so much stuff's happening in the NWA. A lot of news has been coming out. A lot of signees have been made. And there's a lot of ebb and flow with the National Wrestling Alliance. There always has been. But it just feels like recently, it's been wild, man. And we'll get to that in just a minute. I do want to engage the chat because that's what we do here. And, of course, Willie Bowen wouldn't be Willie Bowen if he didn't have the Tyrus joke of the day. Tyrus, for some of you who have blocked out of your memory, is the former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion who disappointed a lot of us as champion. Willie says, hey, Jay Cal, Tyrus just landed a new job. It's as a mattress in an adult video. That would be the lumpiest, grossest mattress I've ever laid on. And I've been in hotels in Atlanta. Let's see. Noob's in the house. Noob says, hey, Joe Alonzo, Misa K are leaving the NWA. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, I promise. It's on my thing, on my list of things to get to. Let's see. Jeremy, how are you? Noob says, I'm excited for Natalia Markova to be signed in an exclusive deal with the NWA. To me, the NWA should have signed Natalia when she debuted or when Brian Idol debuted, and the NWA should have signed both of them. Yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting. This is a very strange and dynamic time, I think, for the NWA. And I say that, and it's almost weekly now. It just feels like there's turbulent times. The status quo has changed for the NWA. Now we're talking about signing wrestlers to contracts. And before, like we know in the past, there have been wrestlers who competed and even held titles for the NWA without a contract. And now I feel like the NWA, I don't know if it's pressures from this NXT NWA, or excuse me, NXT TNA relationship, or if it's AEW's ever-growing Ring of Honor roster, or what exactly has inspired Billy Corgan to lock up more talent under contract. But we are seeing that more and more. It is becoming more and more apparent. Kikushi's insulted. Yikes. Dave Scooby says, William Patrick Corgan is the Oprah of wrestling. You get a contract. It does feel like that. Is Billy part of the Illuminati? Billy Corgan's a part of the Illuminati. It's all making sense now. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just being silly. If Tyrus gave it a hug, oh God, geez. Our pal Adam is here. What is up, pal Adam? I say that, and I don't know why that's so funny to me. And it's the stupidest thing, but it's just funny to me. Paladin, excuse me. No, I did not see the Forbidden Door. I did not watch it. I've heard great things about it. I saw some of the clips from it. I do want to get to see that matchup between Swerve and Will Ospreay. As some of you know, I do like Will Ospreay. I'm not afraid to say it. I do like the flippy dippy. So come at me, bro. But let's talk about what's going on in the NWA. God, I look so greasy. Jeez Louise, man. I need to hire a makeup girl or something. Makeup girl. My wife would be more than happy to put makeup on my face. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let me see something here. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. Just all of a sudden, a bunch of work stuff popped up. Hey, while I'm doing that, why don't you guys watch this? It's almost like you were there, right? Right? I do enjoy Dubby, and you should too. Dubby. All right, so where was I going? We're talking about the NWA and a lot of the movers and shakers. Obviously, we're seeing some contracts getting signed, and that's usually a pretty cool thing. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't know about you guys. I'm not a tribalist. I don't have a favorite wrestling promotion. I kind of watch everything. If it's good, if it's entertaining, I'm going to watch it. And that includes AEW, which I've been to 3 AEW shows last year. 3 AEW shows last year and 1 this year. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I won this year. I went to the show in February in Arizona. I've gone to AEW shows. I've gone to WWE shows. I've gone to GCW shows, New Japan shows, New Japan Strong shows. NWA shows all across the country. I've been to United Wrestling Network shows all across the country. I've been to Mexico. I've been to China. I will go where good wrestling happens. I went to a very rustic place called Glassboro, New Jersey. It might not be on your map, but it should be, because that had been the home for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. They're having an event coming up soon. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. But as I was mentioning, these contracts for the NWA, I mean, they've been plentiful. Of course, they announced that they had signed an exclusive contract with Max the Impaler. Now, that's interesting. Max the Impaler is currently your unified television champion. Until they call it something else, I'm calling it the Unified Television Championship, because Max holds both the men's TV title and the women's television title. Also, under an exclusive contract, the NWA signs the King Bees. Again, now this is a little bit head scratching, right? Because the King Bees, who have been under, the women's tag team champions for quite some time now, they're also the Mission Pro tag team champions. And when you use the word exclusive, and I'll go back to Max as well, exclusive, does that mean that they're no longer able to compete outside of an NWA ring? Because Max has competed in Finland, Max has competed in Japan, Max competes on the independents here in the United States. The King Bees have wrestled, besides just Mission Pro, they've also appeared in numerous independents in Texas. Markova has signed an exclusive contract, and I'm telling you, Markova is currently I think the Dog Pound Women's Champion. I could be mistaken. I know she holds a Texas Championship title. Brian Idol is now exclusive to exclusive to the NWA. Now, we know Brian Idol has been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but hell, I saw Brian Idol just a few weeks ago out here in Southern California wrestling for a wrestling promotion that is not an NWA affiliated territory. Spencer Slade has now inked an exclusive contract. We know Spencer Slade is scheduled to work the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator event that's coming on October, I believe, the 18th. Wait, I have my notes right here. Friday, October 18th. And then Colby Corino, we know that the former World Junior Heavyweight Champion, it was announced a little while ago that he was under an exclusive contract with the NWA. And most recently, Carson Drake has now signed an official exclusive contract. Now, I guess where I'm confused is what's so exclusive about these contracts? Are they still allowed to work independents? Is this only exclusively to keep them out of TNA or MLW or Ring of Honor or et cetera, et cetera? It's just kind of a confusing subject. And, maybe if someone from the NWA was more direct about it and tell us, like, what does that mean? Now, of course, when I saw Brian Idol just a few weeks ago, he wasn't signed. He wasn't announced that he was exclusive to the NWA. But is this the new way that the world will spin for the National Wrestling Alliance, that these contracts now will prevent them from working the indies? Or is this just to prevent them from going on to bigger and different wrestling promotions? I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think. So let's go back to the comments section and see what you guys are saying. Hey, our friends over at Dog Pro Wrestling have joined the conversation. Good guys over there at Dog. The Alliance fam celebrates all wrestling as long as it doesn't suck ass. Exactly. You've never been to a Dog show because Dog does not have shows. We run events. See, I should write that down somewhere. Rustic are pretty empowered under contract. See, Paladin, we haven't heard that yet. And, Kenzie and Kylie are both not only currently wrestling for the National Wrestling Alliance, but the Page sisters own Crossfire Wrestling. So technically, they are under the the territory agreement with the NWA. I don't know if that transfers over to their contractual wrestling status. I don't know. Willie Poet says the bootylicious. maybe the NWA has a forbidden door. Well, the NWA, their forbidden door has been kind of exclusive to working with Lucha Libre AAA, as we saw last year at the World is a Vampire, where we saw talents from the NWA and the AAA hold a joint event in Mexico City at Foro Sol. I was there. It was awesome. And then we had last year, we had talents from AAA at the Crockett Cup. And one could say that we had talents from Lucha Libre AAA at this year's Crockett Cup. I mean, Sam Adonis, although he is a freelancer, has been mostly closely associated with AAA. He's been part of their main event picture, teaming with Jeff Jarrett of all people. And then, of course, Jack Cartwheel has definitely been a reoccurring character in Lucha Libre AAA, and he was just on Power last week, challenging for that World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Let's see. Paladin says, or Jeremy says, Spencer Slade is no dick dancer. Did you watch Power today? You might not want to. Noob says Dog Pound Women's title and Midwest All-Star Women's title. Those are the titles that Markova is holding. So I was right. Well, partially right. No, but because Spencer Slade will be on a dog event. All right. Jeez. Jay Cal, will Ricochet appear tomorrow night on Dynamite? I mean, I know it's, again, this is an NWA show, but as far as Ricochet goes, I would not doubt that he is going to debut for AEW at some point. I think if I were Ricochet, I would avoid signing with AEW and maybe spend some time in Mexico working with both, not Mexico. I said Mexico, but what I meant was Japan, working with New Japan Pro Wrestling, because I feel like if he goes and only works, if he goes to AEW, yes, there's that cross promotion where he will be, entering the forbidden door and exiting the forbidden door. But I feel like in New Japan, when they lost Will Ospreay and they lost a lot of the talents that were like AJ Styles, some of their top gaijins from the last couple of years. And I know Styles is a while ago, but Kenny Omega and all these guys who have been leaving now, Okada with AEW, I feel like Ricochet would really stand out. And I think he would be, given that his previous history with New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think he could be utilized in a much higher capacity than AEW. And honestly, if I'm a talent, I'm afraid to go to AEW. I feel like it's so oversaturated that there is not enough time for everyone to get good camera time. My favorite member of Pretty Empowered, right now, Pretty Empowered is Kenzie Page and Kylie Page. My former favorite member was Ella Envy, but she's no longer with the group. I hope not. We got too much WWE trash in AEW as is. Fair enough. Willie says exclusive means no WWE intervention. That's possible. Kikuchi with the jokes. Hey, Paladin, the NWA doesn't have a forbidden door. They have a trap door. You must have saw this week's Power, Kikuchi. Oh, yeah, Jeremy. Well, then you're not missing much, bro. He won't be special in AEW. He doesn't do nothing that other talent can't already do. Exactly. And I don't mean that in a negative thing, right, Paladin? Like, I like Ricochet. I like the moves that he has. Him and Will Ospreay are very evenly matched. I would say at this point, I think Will Ospreay is the more complete wrestler. Will Ospreay has better promos, I think, right now. And Ricochet, I think he's a very talented wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but again, where does he fit in the hierarchy of AEW? Is he going to be the one to take the belt off of Swerve? I just don't see it. And they're putting titles on like Jack Perry. It's like, come on, man. At what point does this even make sense? Yeah, Robert, I agree. I think AEW would benefit from a brand split, and I think. They were talking about that when they first brought in Collision. I almost called it Collusion. Collision, where it was going to be like a different show and then that didn't even stay that way. I really feel like they'd benefit if they created a roster that was exclusive to Ring of Honor and a roster that was exclusive to AEW, and at times at pay-per-views, at special events that you could cross over, but not an everyday situation, not every show. Paladin says, yeah, he can go to TNA. Hey man, TNA, I don't know, man. That seems not such a bad choice anymore, especially when they were talking about how much they wanted to spend on Ospreay. Forget about it. So let's talk about those contracts, right? Because we did hear about all these people signing, but what we didn't hear is, well, I guess we did hear because they said it themselves, but Joe Alonzo and Missa Kate, two favorites of this live stream, have announced that they have parted ways with the NWA, and it seems to be under amicable circumstances. Now, I've been saying for a while we haven't seen Missa Kate in an NWA ring, and honestly, it seems like Missa Kate was very underutilized after losing the tag titles. Her and Ren Sinclair, formerly known as Maddie Rinkowski, once they split, it seemed like they did not have a lot of direction for Misa. Unfortunately, that seems like a byproduct of the NWA women's division. Where is the continuity? Where are the stars? Who are you building up? I mean, Ella Envy challenging for the women's world title, which will probably be on next week's Power, is great. I love it. But we have a roster filled of talent that are just being kind of ignored. And Missa Kate was certainly one of the ladies who had been ignored. Now, Missa Kate, again, we haven't seen her on TV in a while. And a different set of circumstances, Joe Alonzo, who last week we saw defend the World Junior Heavyweight title against Jack Cartwheel, which in my mind was probably the best match on that entire card for the Crockett Cup. One of the best matches. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I felt like they really played well together in that matchup, played well off of each other, I should say. Joe Alonzo cuts a hell of a promo after the match, calling himself Mr. NWA, and then just a couple hours later, he's losing the World Junior Heavyweight title and announces that he is no longer a part of the National Wrestling Alliance. Now, I wonder, and this is just speculation here, but we talked about the Housemen and all the toxicity that came from the oh gosh, I forgot his full website, the Houseman Wrestling, whatever it was. They had made so many claims that the cocaine spot at Samhain had costed the NWA their show on the CW, which was never really factual. And it, what it sounded like, what it appeared to be, was a lot of hearsay. And a lot of it seemed to be coming from one particular individual who was Chicago-based, and that particular individual who used to the Hauser of Wrestling. Thank you, Jeremy. The House of Wrestling. That one particular individual, stopped wrestling under his gimmick and left the NWA. And it seems like anybody that was affiliated with that person or the state of Chicago has been gone. And I don't know if that affiliation means that anybody who was associated with Ego Fantastico, Robert Anthony, if that means that they got the old Knicks, and I don't know. This is just speculation, but like they literally have a territory in Chicago, and for most of those cards, they didn't even use like a Missa Kate who lived in the state. They didn't even use a Joe Alonzo until the last event, I believe, and it kind of sets the precedent that maybe they were on bad terms, and maybe they were just, the NWA was honoring their contracts on the way out. Now, the Joe Alonzo thing is very puzzling to me because they didn't need to put the title on him. They never had to put the title on him. They put the belt on him, and then they let him run with it and took it off of him just in the last month, just in a couple weeks, last week. So it's kind of hard to... It's puzzling to find out what happened, and I guess we never will know what happened. I don't know if there was some sort of falling out, if there was some sort of disagreement. Joe Alonzo was very incendiary with his comments. There was a lot of heat on him with what he had said about Colby Corino. We know that he had said a lot of very challenging words about homicide And, they kept giving him these opportunities to get over, and I feel like he did. I don't know why Joe Alonzo isn't a part of the NWA anymore. And again, that's inside information. We'll probably never know why he wasn't in there. Are we expecting him to come out and self-report that he pissed Billy off? I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, it's very surprising to me. Hopefully all things are well. Maybe Joe Alonzo, we'll see him elsewhere, or maybe we'll see Misa Kate show up elsewhere. A lot of opportunities in the world of professional wrestling as it is right now. And it's just very surprising that those two weren't made a part of future storylines and are no longer with the NWA. Let's see, more of your comments. Let's see. Hey, Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. We'll see you at Dog Event on Friday night, October 18th. I don't think you're going to see Jeremy in New Jersey. Jeremy lives in Colorado. Let's see. Noob, I got a question for you, Jay Cal, as well as the chat. Now that Markova is signed with the NWA, will she win the NWA Women's, and will she surpass Camille's 813-day reign? As of right now, I don't see anyone on the roster that is going to win that title and hold it for 813 days. I do see, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Markova won the title, but to hold it for that amount of time, I just don't think is realistic. And it kind of speaks to the volume of the character of Camille and how much development they had for her and how much revere that the NWA had for Camille. And they put her in that position, allowing her to not just, wrestle, just nobodies. I mean, she was in the ring with Matt Cardona's wife, whose name escapes me for the moment. Taya Valkyrie. She was in the ring with, again, Max the Impaler. She was in the ring with a lot of great talents and retained that title through hard work and dedication. And, I could see Markova upending Kenzie Page's title reign, but I could also see Kenzie Page holding that title a little bit longer. But I don't see either one of them holding the title for 813 days. It didn't stay that way because they lost. The reason they keep it like that, it was made for Punk. He was so hated that half the roster didn't want to work with him. Punk is a human trash can. I'll say this, Paladin, and I don't want to say too much, but I did speak to somebody who was under contract to AEW, and a lot of what he was saying was echoing the sentiments of CM Punk. So take that as you will. I couldn't get any of those guys to speak to me on the record, but, I know some of those guys who were there. Some of them aren't there anymore that I knew, but yeah, things change. Let's see. Imagine that Billy not having a plan for someone. Yeah. AEW worked with NWA in 2021. Yeah, it could have been interesting. In 2021, Cody was still under contract, I believe, with AEW. Aldis was still your world's heavyweight champion. At that point, I believe the NWA women's champion was Serena Deeb. So, yeah, 2021 was a wild time for the NWA and its relationship with AEW, but that was very short-lived. And, I think on both sides, I know that Tony was kind of miffed that he didn't get more respect and props from Billy Corgan's NWA. And I think Billy Corgan felt like Tony Khan was lucky to have the use of the NWA. It's really kind of weird. I don't really get it. Again, these are all for profit corporations, right? None of these companies are doing wrestling for free. None of them are doing this out of the kindness of their heart. Every one of them is trying to make a buck, right? Every single promoter is out there trying to make a buck, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let me make sure that I'm speaking clearly. There's nothing wrong for these corporations and companies to be running for profit. I respect it. I support it. I'm all about it. However, when you start mixing talent and you start using talent roster members from other companies like the WWE and TNA. They're using TNA talent on NXT shows and NXT talent on TNA shows. And that has potential to help both companies as NXT is heading towards the CW, I believe this time next year. Or is it this year? It's this year. Okay. Anyway, it's coming soon. So having that a little bit of more TNA talent to help season their NXT talent, nothing wrong with that at all. But at some point, like if it's not serving you and you're not making money with it, then why are you still doing it? Tony Khan didn't make any money by allowing legit Layla to wrestle Camille at Pretty Empowered. He didn't make any money for having his talents appear on the NWA programming. And having Serena Deeb hold the NWA title, wasn't a draw for AEW. It didn't grow the brand. Let's be realistic and honest about it. It didn't make things for AEW. Likewise, having those talents appear in the NWA on Power and Pretty Empowered didn't move the needle. It wasn't Britt Baker challenging Camille for the NWA Women's title. Let's pump the brakes on the importance of the cross-promotional stuff. If it wasn't going to be somebody like Cody Rhodes or somebody like Britt Baker or one of the superstars of AEW, it's not going to draw in the NWA. And likewise, the NWA really didn't give AEW all that much to work with either, right? Having when the women's championship was on Thunder Rosa and the title changed hands on AEW, went to Serena Deeb, and then Thunder Rosa signed a contract almost immediately after that. But that was kind of a big deal. That was a great deal for AEW, and having Thunder Rosa being able to get her from the NWA that worked out well for both sides. But long term, it didn't do a whole lot for the NWA. That little bit of exposure didn't grow the brand. You look back to the 70th anniversary show before there was an All Elite Wrestling, and at the playing off of All In, when Cody and Nick Aldis took the stage for a second time at the 70th anniversary show, that was a packed house because of Cody Rhodes and his ability to draw, and Nick Aldis and his ability to draw. Some people say that the real main event of All In was Cody Nick, and you could agree or disagree, but the carryover literally packed the house for the NWA at the 70th anniversary show. That was a relationship that benefited the NWA and catapulted them into what became Power. But let's not act like what AEW and the NWA did the same thing, because it just didn't. Oh, wow, you guys got me going off on stuff. Ego started his podcast up again this week. I can't wait. Yep, the Pretty Empowered all-women pay-per-view. The junior heavyweight title is pointless. I mean, Sean, I guess. Look, it's just another prize for a smaller guys. At one point, the NWA was the home of like hosses, right? Like you looked at the roster. Nick Aldis was one of the smaller guys. You had like a younger Tim Storm. You had Jack Stane. You had, who else was there? Tom Latimer, Chris Adonis. There was a lot of big guys. And then you had guys like Trevor Murdoch. And, there was no such thing as a small guy on the roster. The smallest guy on the roster was Ricky Starks, So having a junior heavyweight title then didn't make a lot of sense. When you have more guys who are more appropriately sized for the junior heavyweight division, I don't have a problem with it. Now, Kerry Morton is in a junior heavyweight. Cool, that's fine. Let him do what he's doing. But Alex Taylor is. Colby Corino is. And there are a handful of guys on the roster who would be considered junior heavyweight. I mean, hell, Mecha Wolf, even though we haven't seen him since before the Crockett Cup, he's on the smaller side. He would be classified as a junior heavyweight. Just kind of have to wait and see what they plan on doing. I think I got the pay-per-view name wrong. It was Pretty Empowered. You were close, Paladin. That Ego show is very entertaining. Where is Bad Bunny? I think he's selling out concert venues. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with him showing up every now and then with the WWE. He's not Jake Paul. Jake Paul could do a wrestling full-time if he wanted to. He could stop doing Prime and stop doing his impulsive podcast and just focus on being a wrestler and make a very good living at it. I think a guy like Bad Bunny he could wrestle enough, but I think his real draw is his obviously selling out venues as a musician and making money that way. Willie says the TV title is pointless now. I tend to agree. I mean, it's almost like a vanity championship for Max the Impaler. Again, I have no problem with Max the Impaler being non-binary. I have no problem with Max the Impaler challenging for either title, but by having both has really bottlenecked both divisions. We haven't seen a women's title defense in months. It's been since January. I don't know when we'll see one next. And then as far as the men's division, we did see Max defend the title against we did see Max defend the title recently against Jake Dumas, Magic Jake, and they retained. Sorry guys, real quick. All right, let's see. Chelsea Green, thank you. Couldn't remember. She totally disappeared. She just used to be very active on social media. Steve G, who are you talking about? Not everyone needs to be very long-term champion. Let Camille's reign keep uninterrupted. Not to say they cannot book good things without a long reign. Yeah, I wish they kept book good thing. Yeah, exactly. I feel like they should just keep. Like, that was special. Camille holding that title for as long as Camille held the title was very special. And not everyone needs to do that. Camille was a very special talent for the NWA. Again, we talked about how often Camille stole the show. And even when Tyrus wasn't champion, she was still stealing the show. So, well, I heard from AEW telling that I'm right, Jay. So there. Look, we, in our own Discord, so many people were divided on Punk that we separated a chat that was like, I love Punk, I hate Punk, because it's so divisive. And that's okay. I don't care if you like Punk. I don't care if you dislike Punk. I know Punk draws. I know Punk will sell will sell merchandise for you, and he'll grab eyeballs to your product. You don't have to like the guy to make money with him. I still think TK screwed up royally by letting CM Punk go. You know, they should have just figured it out. I think that's going to be, if we ever talk about the death of AEW, that's going to be a big part of it. How could you let a guy like that go? He was drawing numbers. He was selling out house shows, not house shows, live events. He was selling out merchandise. He's one of your top merch sellers. And for what? For what? For Jack Perry? Are we serious? Jack Perry? Never drew a dime, Jack Perry? Never made a name for himself, Jack Perry? Was part of a comedy tag team act? That's how he got over, Jack Perry? Nobody takes him seriously, Jack Perry? Come on. You're going to tell me you're going to take Jack Perry over CM Punk if you're building a wrestling federation? That's utter bullshit. That's crazy. I was feared for my life. Shut up, Tony. At least the NWA women's title is still the best division of the NWA since day one. I don't know if I can even say that anymore, right, Jody? Because it's like, what are they doing with that women's division? You got Kenzie Page. She's wrestled the same couple of talents. She had a title defense against Natalia Markova. She beat her. Had a title defense against Ruthie J. Beat her. Had a title defense against Tiffany Nieves. Beat her. She has the title defense against Ella Envy coming up. And we know what's going to happen there. And Natalia should be champion. Either the Burke or TV or tag team. She should be champion sooner or later. I agree wholeheartedly. In fact, Noob and I were talking offline not too long ago. And I was thinking, I wouldn't be surprised if Natalia Markova and Brian Idol won the U.S. tag titles. Because that's another division that just, man, we've gone almost the entire 2024 without U.S. tag champions. Like, that's, what are we doing? The titles have been idle. You could have crowned new champions at Crockett Cup. Winner of the Crockett Cup wins the U.S. tag titles. Nope. They just sit idly by. Is AEW for a profit company though? I mean, sheesh. Look, I still think that they have produced no profit yet. TK paid for talent to work the show. He provided AEW talent. It wouldn't have happened without TK. That's why there was never another empowered show. TK wasn't there to pay for everything. Let's be okay. I hear what you're saying, Paladin. Are you telling me there isn't enough women talent out there that they couldn't have done empowered without them? Again, who was under contract that appeared at the event? We had legit Layla Hirsch, right? We had Red. Man, you're gonna make me look it up. Let's see. Cage match. Let's see. Okay, so the NWA Empowered pay-per-view. We had Diamante, Chick Tormenta, and Kylie Ray. Diamante is a part of the AEW roster, I believe, or at least was. Sahara 7 was a part of AEW, or at least she was. Let me see. Let me see if I can verify this. No, Sahara 7 is considered a freelance now. She might have been an AEW wrestler there. Diamante is an AEW wrestler. Kylan King, Red Velvet. Red Velvet was on that roster. Deonna Purrazzo was a part of the TNA roster. And so, Kiera Hogan was part of AEW. Yeah. Right? Yes. So Red Velvet, Diamante, and Kiera Hogan. And the rest of them were freelancers. So no, I don't buy that they couldn't have done Pretty Empowered without AEW. I think that is double speak right there. I think that's bullshit, Paladin. I don't think that's accurate information, because are you telling me they couldn't have gotten Heather Monroe or Ruby Reyes or any one of the talents that are working for WoW? You know what I mean? Come on. Red Velvet made that pay-per-view. Kiera Hogan made that pay-per-view. Come on. That's silly. Legit Layla, come on. There would have, look, could the NWA have found other options? 100%. Did they? No. So to your point, I mean, there was something there beneficial for the NWA to use those talents, but you're telling me that they couldn't run that pay-per-view without those talents? That's not accurate. Let's see. Forget AEW. I want NWA work SICW. Sure, man. TK provided bodies to fill up the card. Again, I just don't. Let's see. Kakushi says, if it was not for the NWA Championship match on All In, we may not have had AEW. I agree with that, actually. And I will say this, look, I know that there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions on everything All In. But remember, what drove that card was the Cody and Nick Aldis momentum. And I know there's a lot of revisionist history out there, but if you go watch during those 10 pounds of gold episodes, and I know it's so sucky that the NWA had pulled all that content off their YouTube channel, but if you went and looked at the 10 pounds of gold episodes leading up to All In with Nick Aldis and Cody, there was so much excitement from NWA fans for Cody and Nick Aldis. It was palatable. NWA fans bought All In because they wanted to see Nick and Cody. Now, the Elite fans, which, the Young Bucks, Cody, basically the American version of Bullet Club with their friends, they were building up to that show as well. And it was a lot of that time was promos of Cody talking about the 10 pounds of gold, talking about the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And so that match, although, again, for NWA fans, it was very important. For Cody fans, it was very important. I feel like that really drove All In. Now, I could be wrong, and nobody could really give me a breakdown of who ordered what for why. But they made that title match so important, and NWA fans were there. And I know this because when the 70th anniversary show rolled around in Nashville, Tennessee, it wasn't just Nashville wrestling fans there. It wasn't just NWA wrestling fans there. Oh, there was a large contingent there to see Cody Rhodes, and this was before All Elite Wrestling. And had All In not had been successful, it would not have spawned AEW. AEW was, All In was the proof of concept. All In was the idea that they could do a big pay-per-view, a big wrestling show without the WWE. And they were able to do that, which spawned the idea of, hey, we could do this weekly. We could do a pay-per-view company. We could do a wrestling show. We could have a company that does wrestling TV. But the proof of concept was All In. And that was not Tony Khan. AEW does have some very great strategic partners, no doubt about it. And they're smart in it, working with CMLL, working with New Japan, working with RevPro. Those three already had a relationship in place. So adding AEW to the mix is not a bad thing at all. In fact, because of that, they still also have that relationship with Lucha Libre AAA. They previously had a relationship with TNA Wrestling. They previously had a relationship with NWA. It's fine. It's good. But at some point, all of these promotions need to stand on their own. New Japan right now, from what I see of it, and I know Forbidden Door just happened, but from what I saw from New Japan, it's heavily relying on AEW talent and vice versa. It's CMLL is sending talent to AEW and to New Japan. These promotions have to stand on their own as well. The smallest member of the NWA roster is Billy's understanding of how to book wrestling. Did I say Jake Paul? I meant Logan Paul. Apologies. Oh, sorry, Steve G. Max is another Tyrus. I think Max can wrestle. Max in the right match is interesting. Max has a presence, right? Tyrus has a presence too, right? But his presence is to stand there. As soon as he wrestles, you can see how fragile he is. Like in a fight, if you were going to fight Tyrus, you just kick him once in the knee as hard as you can, and it's pretty much fight over. Where Max did not ever feel that way to me. Max, I think Max could still go. Max is a non-binary version of Vader. And when you see Max in the ring with blunt force trauma, they didn't hold anything back. They beat the crap out of each other. All In way not funded by Tony Khan. It was mostly crowdfunded, and most of the rest came from the Codys and Bucks. Look, at the end of the day, right? All In, who owns the rights to the footage? I mean, now Tony does, but back then Sinclair owned it because Sinclair, Ring of Honor, spent a lot of money for the production of that. So, I mean, yes, I do believe that it was crowdsourced. I do believe that there was money contributed by Cody and the Bucks, but I also believe Sinclair was one of the big investors too. That's why they retained possession of the All In instead of Cody or the Bucks. It was Sinclair. Ring of Honor produced that. Let's see. The Punk trials and spread cancer everywhere. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like CM Punk to know that he is a draw. Punk was causing more trouble than he was worth. He was destroying the culture in the back. You don't hear any more problems in AEW since he was fired. You don't? You don't hear any more problems in AEW? Or you're not hearing the problems in AEW? Forget AEW. We're in the NWA fandom. Just look at her bash Tony Khan elsewhere. There you go. Jack Perry reminds me of the actor that plays Hyde from that 70s shows, except for less likable. Corgan was lying. He didn't want to pay the talent. Mickey James knew he was lying and was offended. She left the NWA and took her husband with her. Red Velvet. Use the tag titles in the territory. Yes. Dave Scooby with the right answer again. Put those U.S. tag titles and make them a traveling territory title. I'm all about that. I think that's brilliant, Dave Scooby. And you don't need to crown Exodus Pro Tag Champions. You don't need to have NWA Chicago Tag Champions. You don't need to have FTW Tag Champions. You just have the U.S. Tag Champions, whoever they are, and have them work the territories. God, it's so brilliant. It's so smart. It's so easy. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The pre-party is partially booked. I mean, look, if I had to, full disclosure, Cage Match does get a lot of my hits. You know, also Lucha Wiki helps out a lot with Veamos Lucha Libre. TK paid indie talent to work during the pandemic. Before that, it was AEW talent exclusively. He wanted to help the business. Paladin, you're sure. I don't have a problem with that. And again, I don't hate Tony Khan. I'm just saying they could have done Empower without him. Tony Khan has made pro wrestling fun again. I think wrestling was fun to begin with. I wasn't even a wrestling fan until AEW came along. I'm a 5-year wrestling fan. Never watched a WWE show. When you go watch the NWA 70, the buildup was fever pitch. It was crazy, Roswell. And I just was looking at some photos the other day, and I just remember being in that venue, the old Tennessee Fairgrounds, and it's a shame that it's gone, but it had this altruistic feeling, right? There was like I got goosebumps just thinking about it because the fans were there for wrestling. They were there for the NWA. And I don't know that we've seen as big a wrestling crowd for the NWA since then. I mean, it got pretty close in Dothan, Alabama, but, you know, in Nashville at the fairgrounds with that fever pitch with that Cody and Nick, you know, like it was huge. It was palatable. And there were some other talents there that were, you know, pre-all elite wrestlers like Scorpio Sky, and there was Ricky Starks. There was also, what was his name? I can't think of his name right now, but there was a lot of guys who would later go on to AEW that were there. Colt Cabana, Willie Mack, you know, yes. But at the same time, like it wasn't exclusively, there was no AEW at that point. So it wasn't like these are AEW talents working for an NWA show. They were just freelancers until AEW came along. Let's see. Forbidden Door had New Japan, CMLL, and Stardom. Yeah. In January, they are doing Wrestling Dynasty in Japan. All the companies are going to Japan, which is cool. I think that's great. Again, I don't have a problem with that. Problem is, Max can wrestle, yes, but outside of Camille, no women in the NWA booked to be able to stand toe-to-toe with Max. We really need someone in the women's convincing enough to be equal to Max. Again, that brings me back to Markova. You know, one of the things that Max was breaking ground is doing intergender matches. Now, we're going to go ahead and say Max is non-binary, so they don't identify as a man or a woman, but that's still a gender, right? And so Max was the first wrestler to kind of break through that NWA to give us, intergender wrestling. Well, now we've got Markova doing that. Markova advanced to the second round of the Crockett Cup. And, it wasn't exactly like gangbusters. But Markova has probably had like maybe 4 intergender tag team matches, her and Brian Idol. So, yeah, I mean, they've kind of built her up as someone who is tough. Now, can she stand toe-to-toe with Max? That's another question. But they have had a history, and Max has Markova never backed up from Max. Markova went out there and faced her head on. So it wouldn't shock me if that feud reignited at some point. But again, with both titles being on Max, it's really hard to do anything because, well, I don't know. It shouldn't be. If you had a rotisserie chicken, Tyrus would wrestle hard then. Jeez. I can't wait for Starks to show up on WWE TV. Well, Doty, Natalia Markova was the right option to get the... Yes, I agree with that. Hey, Jay, what do you think of Falabala versus the corner, the flag bearer of the NWA dog team? Yes, I think Falaba versus Connor, the flag bearer of dog tag team champions, the War Devils, is going to get killed. And somehow, some way, I hope Dave Dahl gets squashed by Falaba yet again. Is the NWA going back to the chase this year? The answer, I think, is no. And I'm glad I got to do that last year because it doesn't appear that they're going to go back, at least not this year. I mean, maybe next year, but going to the ECW arena for the anniversary show is a big, it's a big departure from wrestling at the Chase. And although we've heard that there's going to be an event in New York, they also have the, Samhain is already booked. Let's see. I have this stuff here. I could just talk about it here. Like, okay, we got the 76th anniversary show that's going to be in Philadelphia. Samhain 2, that's going to be in Sarasota, Florida at the Robarts Arena. Then Looks That Kill, that's going to be back in Dothan. No, I don't, we don't see that. That's August, October, and December. It doesn't look like they're going to have an opportunity to go back to the Chase. Now, I mean, that could change, but I mean, it was also where they held the anniversary shows. It just doesn't look like that's where they're going. See more of your comments before we wrap up today's show. Are there any fans of Dave Dahl on the stream chat? Probably not. Probably not. Hey, Roswell, if you get out there, you got to let me know. I will have a shirt ready for you. I'll have some Alliance t-shirts. I did this back at the last year's anniversary show. I made up some shirts. Get to my DMs. Tell me what t-shirt size you are. I'll have one waiting for you. Got a cool design. We'll debut it soon. Anyone that goes to the live event can have one of the shirts for free. You just got to get me your size as a way of being a part of this alliance, right? But going back to Power, and again, we didn't even talk a lot about our new junior heavyweight champion, Alex Taylor. Alex Taylor seemingly won the title this past week at the NWA Chicago event. Assumingly, he defeated Joe Alonzo, but there hasn't been a lot of no footage of that matchup. Maybe that'll be a YouTube exclusive at some point. But congratulations to Alex Taylor now being the standard bearer for the Southern Six, right? They've each individually have held titles at some point. Now Alex Taylor's the only one to hold a title in that group. And then, of course, this week's Power. I mean, you've got some pretty hard-hitting action and something that's just a waste of time. I sat through the Family Jewels ladder match, and never have I been more ashamed to be a fan of the NWA. Never have I been more embarrassed by what Billy Corgan considers entertainment. It was the absolute worst. And if it wasn't an advertised match, so if you never had the match or you had to change it, you could have just crossed it off the list. You didn't have to present anything. It's such a joke. It's so insulting. And I get it. Some of you guys are out there. I loved it, man. I loved that match. Why? It was garbage. That was single-handedly the worst thing I saw the NWA do this entire year. Year ain't over yet. So look forward to that. Oh, jeez. Family Jewels ladder match. That's nuts. It was awful. Guys, I try to be very upbeat about the NWA. I try to be very positive. I am a positive person. I believe in positive mental attitude, the PMA, right? I show gratitude for the things that I have. I'm grateful for the people who interact with me, who are on this chat, who come and do interviews with us. I try to support the NWA as much as I can, but matches like that, matches like this, if I'm trying to convince you to become a fan of the NWA and that's the match that you see, God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, look, whether you like Zion and Tom Latimer, which I didn't think was a great match. I don't think they had a lot of in-ring chemistry. I really like Tom Latimer. I'm just kind of whatever with Zion. I haven't seen him break through and become a star. And maybe, again, that's how he's booked. I don't know. That matchup to me was lackluster. I did enjoy the Southern Six versus Murnochs. I think that was a great matchup. If you guys watch that, I think you'll enjoy it. But this, why? I get it. Eric Smalls is a very endearing character. He's got a big heart, and he knows how to work. He works obviously he's a mini. He works a very good style for mini wrestling, but the NWA doesn't have an active minis division. And unless you're going to start working with promotions that do have a mini division, what's the point of this? Rolando is not technically a mini person. So for him to be in that match, I'm lost for words. It's not good. Nothing about that match I thought, wow, that's great. You know, I had my phone out. I was taking pictures the entire time at the event. I was taking pictures. I was taking video. You know what I didn't take any pictures or video of? That match. The entire time I thought I should go to the bathroom, but it's not going to last that long. No, it did. It lasted way longer than it should have. It was garbage. And if you watch it and you enjoy it, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Leave a comment. Tell me I was wrong. Lewis Snowballs. What is a Family Jewels ladder match? Probably the worst 15 minutes of NWA history. I can't think of a match right now that was. I'd rather see Tom Latimer and EC3 having a debate in the ring again during a title match than seeing Rolando and Eric Smalls or Spencer Slade and yeah. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. The Iron Sheik was the king of being positive. Positive test, right? Rolando Freeman would lose against the Smurfs. Tyrus as champion really hurt the NWA. He couldn't wrestle a lick. NWA power bookings are not as good as the territories. I agree with that. I agree with you on that one, Roswell. JCP is better. JCP is what the NWA should be. Oh, man. Joe Kazana knows what he's doing, right? Joe Kazana, look, at some point, Joe Kazana should be more on board with the booking committee for the NWA. That Family Jewels ladder match is for people with a short attention span. Shit. Kakushi, you're hilarious, man. You're funny. Kakushi, you should be a comedian. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for us today. Now, programming note, Thursday is the 4th of July here in the United States. That means it's a holiday for us here in the United States. So we won't have a live episode of the Alliance Guys podcast for you on this Thursday. My apologies in advance, but we're going to spend some time with the family, have some barbecue, have some brewskis, and have some fun with my wife and kids. However, I'm going to try to have an interview up on the channel for Thursday night. If you're not celebrating the 4th of July and want to stick to your regiment, I'm hoping to have the interview I did with Shane Haste here available on this channel on Thursday. So you can mark that in your calendar. Also next week, we will go back to regular format with the pre-party on Tuesday. I'm supposed to be having an interview with Honest John. Looking forward to that. And then lastly, we'll have the Alliance Guys next Thursday. The return, full force. So again, I appreciate you guys being here. If you would like to help continue to help this channel grow, of course, likes, comments, subscribes, those are great. I appreciate it. If you share it with your friends, even better. If you want to be a part of the club, we have hats for sale, t-shirts for sale. Get yourself some merchandise, helps the channel grow as well. If you're in need of limitless energy, jitterless energy, I recommend W. I'm drinking the Beach and Peach right now. And of course, if you're looking for a title belt, trophy smack, have your own title design. We'll get ours. We're going to get an Alliance title if we get to 5,000 subscribers, which we're so close. And again, that's for you guys. Well, not for you. It's going to be for me. But that's because of you guys being a part of this community, helping this channel grow. So again, I want to say thank you very much for you guys being a part of this live stream. We'll be back next Tuesday. And until next time, we will see you. Oh, man. See you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.